Max Verstappen is going through a decisive phase that could entirely determine the course of his trajectory in Formula One. The statements emerging from the corridors are so controversial that they have the potential to surprise even the most veteran connoisseurs of the sport. Bernie Ecclestone, the figure who essentially shaped contemporary Formula One, has just made an explosive revelation that is causing real commotion in the paddock environment. The four-time world champion has a contractual link with Red Bull until the end of 2028, but anyone familiar with the Formula One universe understands that agreements can transform into mere documents when scenarios change, and these transformations are occurring at an accelerated pace. The situation at Red Bull no longer represents that unshakable solidity of previous years. Christian Horner faced investigative processes, Adrian Newey left the organization, and the performance of the car no longer sustains that level of supremacy that we have become accustomed to witnessing. However, here lies the truly intriguing and controversial aspect of this narrative. Verstappen has been frequently associated with Mercedes and Aston Martin as potential future destinations. However, there is a third alternative that has been gaining momentum behind the scenes. A possibility that may sound like the most natural on the planet, but is provoking the most intense reactions imaginable. We are referring to Ferrari. With Lewis Hamilton joining the team since the beginning of this season, there is a concrete perspective that the seven-time champion will not extend his agreement for a third campaign. And if this materializes in 2027, who would be the natural replacement for a legend? Precisely, Max Verstappen. Theoretically, everything fits perfectly. Ferrari and Verstappen, two historical powers of the category, combining in the pursuit of more world conquests. However, Bernie Ecclestone, with his 94 years and all his experience of decades leading Formula One, could not disagree more with this perspective. His statements were categorical and merciless, like a direct blow. If Verstappen migrates to Ferrari, this would represent the end of his trajectory. Termination. No beating around the bush, not an arduous stage, not a problematic adaptation, but literally the conclusion of everything he has built up to this moment. This statement is completely devastating when it comes from someone like Ecclestone. He is not just any commentator or former competitor issuing an opinion. He is the man who converted Formula One into what it represents today, who established negotiations with all teams, who dominates the behind-the-scenes like no other. When Bernie speaks, the paddock pays attention, and he is stating that Ferrari would constitute a lethal trap for Verstappen's career. But what is the reason for such an extreme stance? The explanation may lie in what we are witnessing happen exactly before our eyes. Lewis Hamilton, the greatest winner in history alongside Michael Schumacher, is facing enormous obstacles at Ferrari. A driver who commanded Mercedes for years, who knows like few others the meaning of winning consistently, is struggling to adjust to the Maranello environment. If this is happening with Hamilton, what can be expected from Verstappen? Ecclestone believes that Verstappen possesses the singular ability to convert a good team into a victorious team. This is a rare characteristic, almost supernatural in motorsport. Few drivers manage to elevate the standard of a team just with their presence, ability, and command. But according to Bernie, Ferrari would be an environment where not even this special competence would operate. The situation becomes even more intricate when we examine the personal aspect of this equation. Bradley Sainz, Verstappen's former physical trainer, disclosed intimate details about the Dutchman's mentality that few know. Max is characterized as someone extremely loyal, but this loyalty has very precise and established limits. He will not remain with a team just out of recognition or emotionality if it is not providing results. Red Bull offered Verstappen the chance in Formula One, developed his trajectory, built dominant cars around him. There is a genuine emotional debt in this relationship. But Sainz clarifies that this loyalty is not eternal. If Red Bull cannot provide a competitive car quickly, all possibilities will be open. And when a driver of Verstappen's level becomes available in the market, confusion sets in at the paddock. What makes this whole situation even more captivating is the timing. Formula One is on the verge of going through gigantic regulatory changes. New engines, new technical rules, a true restart in the category. Nobody knows which team will adapt better, which will dominate the next era. There could be 9 days of preseason tests, something that hasn't occurred for almost a decade, which means that the possibilities can be totally redistributed. Verstappen is only 27 years old, finds himself at the peak of his physical and mental capacity, and understands that he does not have unlimited time to accumulate titles. Every decision he makes in the next 2 years can establish whether he will end his career as one of the greatest of all time or as another talented driver who did not optimize his potential due to wrong team choices. And here emerges a totally distinct perspective from Ecclestone about Ferrari's future. He considers that the Italian team should invest in emerging young talents instead of pursuing consolidated stars. Gabriel Bortoleto and Isaac Hadjar are the names he cites as futures of the category. 2 drivers who are impressing in the current season and can represent a new generation of talents. This vision from Ecclestone suggests something much deeper about the philosophy of team formation in Formula One. Is it preferable to bet on a young, moldable driver who can grow along with the team, or try to attract an already consolidated superstar who might not adapt to the specific culture and philosophies of an organization? Ferrari has always been a singular team, with singular pressures, singular expectations, and a very particular way of operating. It is not coincidental that many talented drivers have faced difficulties there. The question that remains is whether Verstappen would be different, or if he would become just another case of wasted talent in Maranello. The entire drama intensifies when we consider that Verstappen is not just a driver seeking personal success. He represents a generation, a driving style, a winning mentality that can define the next 10 years of Formula One. Any wrong decision does not only affect his career, but the balance of power of the entire category. Bernie Ecclestone may be mistaken, naturally. His opinions have always been controversial and not always accurate, but it is impossible to completely ignore the perspective of someone who knows Formula One like few others. If he is so convinced that Ferrari would be a fatal error for Verstappen, perhaps it's time for everyone to pay attention. At the end of it all, Verstappen has a monumental decision ahead. Continue being loyal to Red Bull and hope they recover competitiveness, risk a change to Mercedes or Aston Martin, or completely ignore Bernie's advice and bet everything on Ferrari. Any choice can be correct or incorrect, but one thing is certain. The future of Formula One may depend on this decision. And you, what's your opinion? Should Verstappen listen to Bernie Ecclestone's advice or follow his own instinct? Would Ferrari really be the end of his career, or could it be exactly the challenge he needs to prove that he is truly special? Leave your opinion in the comments because this discussion is far from over, and every decision that Max makes will impact not only his career, but the entire future of our favorite category.